They were just two boys. Daniel and Isaac Lewis, twin brothers born into a family no one in town really understood. The Lewis house stood on the edge of the woods, the kind of place people whispered about. Not because of what happened, but because of what might have happened. The official story says the twins ran away. But no one really believed that. Not even the police. And now, over half a century later, what was sealed behind a false wall in their childhood home might finally reveal the truth. A truth that someone went to great lengths to bury. Present day, 2012. Jared Lewis never met his uncles. His father, John, never talked about them. Not once. He only knew their names because of a faded black and white photo buried deep in a drawer, two small boys smiling by a tree. Both in suspenders. One missing a front tooth. When Jared's father died, the house was left to him. He didn't want it. No one did. But Jared was broke, single, and tired of paying rent for a one-bedroom apartment with cockroaches. He drove to Kentucky on a Thursday. Parked in front of the house with the keys still trembling in his hand. The front door groaned like it hadn't been opened in years. Dust floated through the beams of sunlight like ghosts. The kitchen was still set like someone had meant to come back. A glass of water half full on the table. An old ashtray. Yellowed newspaper clippings on the wall. But it was the basement that changed everything. The discovery. The steps creaked as Jared went down, flashlight in hand. At first, it was just storage. Old furniture, rusted tools, cardboard boxes with broken Christmas lights. Then he noticed the wall. It didn't match the blueprint. There was a space, just a few feet wide, completely sealed off by fresh drywall that looked newer than everything else in the house. He tapped. Hollow. He pulled at the edges until the panel gave way. And behind it was a door. Small. Wooden. No knob. Just a bolt. It wasn't supposed to be there. He unlatched it. And what he found inside would change everything. Inside the hidden room. The air was stale. Cold. Two small beds. A child's drawing on the wall, stick figures holding hands under a crooked sun. A tiny rocking horse. And on the floor, a single leather shoe. Beside it, a small wooden box. Inside the box, a camera. Still loaded with undeveloped film. A child's handwriting on the back of the box, us. Jared's skin went cold. He backed out slowly, like the room itself might bite him. Then he called the police. And just like that, a 51-year-old mystery became news again. Flashback, 1960. John Lewis, the older brother of the twins, was 9 years old. He remembered the way their father, Edward, would yell. Not in the way other fathers did, his voice had a sharpness to it, like glass breaking. Every step around the house felt like walking on something that might crack. Their mother, Sarah, tried to keep things calm. She would usher the boys to the backyard when the shouting started. Sometimes she would cry quietly in the laundry room. But she never left. The twins, Daniel and Isaac, were inseparable. Even as babies, they used to cry if the other wasn't near. They had their own language. One no one else understood. In town, people admired how polite the Lewis boys were. But they also whispered about how they never smiled in photos. About the time a teacher noticed bruises and no one followed up. One night in November, the boys disappeared. It was a Friday. Cold. Sarah claimed she tucked them into bed just after 8 p.m. John was already asleep. By morning, the boys were gone. Their window was open, but the screen was locked in place. No footprints outside. No broken glass. No notes. No noise. Nothing. Just vanished. Edward called the police around 6:15 a.m. His voice was calm. Too calm. When the police arrived, he lit a cigarette and told them the twins had run away. His hands didn't shake. He didn't even ask to go with them when they searched the woods. Neighbors joined in. Volunteers combed the forest. Dogs picked up no scent. The search lasted 2 weeks. And then it stopped. The case was declared cold. Sarah slowly fell apart after that. She stopped going outside. She'd sit by the window every evening, waiting. Sometimes she whispered their names. Sometimes she forgot John's. Edward stayed the same. John never forgot any of it. And in 1997, when Sarah passed away and Edward moved to a veteran's home, John locked the house and never returned. Until he died in 2012. And Jared unlocked the front door. The film. The officers returned a few days after the initial report. They had developed the film from the camera Jared found. There were only 3 photos. The first, Daniel and Isaac sitting on one of the small beds, holding up fingers to count, 7 fingers total. They looked tired, but not frightened. The timestamp said December 3, 1961. 3 weeks after the date they vanished. The second photo, just Isaac, lying down. His eyes closed. Daniel standing beside him, holding a paper sign that said "Be quiet." The third photo was black. But beneath strong light at the lab, an image began to appear. A shadow. A figure, half-cropped, just out of frame. An adult. Wearing military boots. The police went quiet after that. They said they'd call back. They didn't. Local reaction. When the story broke in the local paper, it went viral online. The headline read, "Family's Hidden Room May Solve 50-Year Mystery." Old neighbors came forward. One woman remembered hearing what sounded like crying through the walls when she visited Sarah in 1962. Another claimed she once saw Edward carrying something large into the basement at night. But no one had ever spoken up. Why? Because Edward was respected. A war veteran. A man who brought pies to the church bake sale. And in a town that small, accusing someone like him came with consequences. Jared received messages. Some supportive. Some hateful. Some begging him to drop it. To let the past stay buried. But Jared couldn't. Not now.